Hi, I'm Terrydavidmulligan, and welcome to the Mulligan Stew Podcast and the Terrydavidmulligan YouTube channel. This is for the video. There's a documentary out there that if you're a Led Zeppelin fan, you have got to see. A, because it's Led Zeppelin. B, because it's a documentary. C, because it's at the IMAX. Huge screen, 50-foot, a sound that goes on forever. That's the way you want to see and hear this documentary. It took Allison McGourtey and Bernard MacMahon years, many years, to finally get Led Zeppelin to agree to sit down and do this documentary, tell their story. One of the things that sold it for them was, first of all, they did a documentary together called American Epic. And it was about the music, roots music, black music from the 1920s, when there was no footage, so to speak. And it impressed Led Zeppelin. But also, they only wanted to tell the story of Led Zeppelin from when they were unknowns to when they became Led Zeppelin. 18 months, that's all. That's it. How they got together to form this band. And again, not a lot of footage, but what they did get was fantastic, including an old interview with John Bonham. And he sat them down one at a time and played John back to them for the camp so the camera could see. And they were all of them touched by the fact that they heard John's voice again. An incredible band, quite a story, which reminds me, as I say in the interview, it reminds me of Elvis Presley. Before he ever recorded, before anybody knew who he was, driving truck in Memphis, those days of anonymity that were about to be lost, the same parallel story with Led Zeppelin, the guys in Led Zeppelin. So the story is, the film is called Becoming Led Zeppelin. We're going to talk about the becoming part, all right? Enjoy this along with Allison and Bernard. Thank you. Welcome to Vancouver, and welcome to Canada. And the more you dug into the history of Led Zeppelin, even what we all knew and what we did have forgotten, they had an incredible history with Vancouver. The times that they played here, they started two of their North American tours in Vancouver. So they obviously like playing this. So that's why there's an attraction to all of this. But as I was starting underground radio in Canada, in Vancouver, I went to San Francisco. I heard what they were doing. I came back and I said, order the albums. Let's go. This is it. And exactly that first box had Led Zeppelin on the top. So we have taken the same road. It's been fantastic. Tell me something. Did you have to be, as filmmakers, did you have to be fans of Led Zeppelin to make this documentary, or did it help clarity to be stepped off one?
I think you have to love the music to make a music film about something. I don't think you should be anywhere near a music film if you don't love the music of the thing you're making. It's not a political movie. It's a film about music. But the thing that made the film for us, why it was really meaningful, is that I loved the early story, the origin of the group. I'd read a little paperback book when I was 12 years old, before I'd heard Led Zeppelin's music. And it was their story of these four guys, two from the Midlands, two from the London's suburbs, trying to find their way in the music business and all their trials and tribulations. It was quite an Arthurian tale. And then meeting in this rehearsal room and this thing happening and then setting out on this quest, and no one in Britain wanting to know, no labels wanting to sign them. They couldn't really get bookings, and they go to America to get a deal. And then they go out there, and then they're fought with everything they've learned. They basically won't do any of the record company things. They refuse to do singles. They won't do television in America, and they're going out through the underground FM stations and playing the Fillmores and the underground venues. And of course, when the media finally reviews them a couple of months later, they're torn apart in the press, and they just sort of double down and go, look, we're just going to forget the press entirely, and we're just going to go, you're going to reach our audience through these 12-inch pieces of plastic in covers that we're no longer to be on the front of, and at these concerts we're doing. And so what was interesting is our previous films, were American epic. They were about the first blues, country, gospel acts from the 20s and 30s in America.
For you, it's the key to the highway to them.
Yes, it's the key to the highway. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, when we made American Epic, everyone was saying, you can't make this. There's no film footage. There's no photographs of some of these people you want to do. But we found this stuff. And so Zeppelin, incredibly, is one of the only acts that's as mysterious in many ways as those 20s and 30s acts are. They don't do interviews. They don't talk about this stuff. There's no documentary beforehand. There's no books. And so I just said to Allison, I think this is a fantastic story and it's not been told. And certainly the part that interested me is like how they did it, who these guys were individually, and how and why they did it and why it worked. Because I knew it was specific to all of them. So we literally, what did we do? We
spent 7 months researching, looking for any archive we could possibly find, writing a script, and then creating a storyboard to see if there was actually a film that could be told with the photographs and archive that existed.
And everyone said
that we were mad because the band would never agree to do it. Fortunately for us,
we reached out to them, and incredibly, we got a meeting, and when we met them, we discovered that they were like huge fans of American Epic. And so
basically American Epic became your pitch.
American Epic is the through line, because American Epic, it's the through line. It also takes us up to World War II, and this film picks up from the 50s, after World War II onwards into the end of the 60s and 1970. And so it's the through line. And so we went to see them with the storyboards. We met all three of them, but
the first meeting was with Jimmy Page, and that meeting lasted 7 hours. And he threw in a few test questions to make sure that we knew our stuff.
Like I said, so at this point you see Robert Plant singing for the first time.
And he said, what was the name of the group that Robert was singing in when I met him?
And I'll be like, Obstweedle.
Very good. Carry on.
Nice. Allison, where were the surprises for you?
Well, one of the first surprises was just a couple of days after that very first 7-hour meeting with Jimmy. He called up a couple of days later and said, would you like to come to Pangbourne with me? So Bernard and I said yes.
And boarded a suburban commuter train to this tiny village where
he used to live, the Bolt House, where he'd had that very first meeting with Robert Plant and then the first rehearsals. And we wandered around that village with him. And it transpired, he told us that was the first time he'd been back since he lived there over 50 years previously.
He sold it around 1970. So very moving, to have someone walk you back into their past. In that way. It was really touching. And then just all of them. The surprise for me was I remember meeting John Paul Jones and meeting him privately, because he generally does very few interviews, particularly about Zeppelin or anything. But meeting him was this immensely charismatic guy. Very funny raconteur. I mean, he's the son of vaudevillian entertainers, but he really is extremely entertaining company and great memory and observations. And I remember meeting him and thinking, I was sitting opposite him for 4 hours, and I just thought, my God, if I can get you as you are with me privately on the screen for the audience, this will be wonderful. And that's what you have on the screen. You have that guy you meet privately.
Did you need all three of them, Allison? If one of them had said no, would you have? Was it done?
Absolutely. We met all three of them individually and together. And the Zeppelin way is if anything's going to be done at all, they all have to agree on it.
So it's the first thing they've all like participated in, where they've all come together and done something all together since the O2 concert in 2007.
Yeah. And also the Bonham family as well.
I also like to. You okay?
Sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
What happened?
Turn this shit off.
You okay?
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I like to. There's a couple of lines here that just stopped me. First of all, becoming Led Zeppelin. I got hung up in the Led Zeppelin part, like most people would. It's the word becoming. It's how they shape those. It's like the early days of Elvis driving truck in Memphis. It's like a Bowie scuffling along trying to get himself to become Ziggy Stardust. These are the days when no one wanted anything to do with them and they became themselves. That's the story.
Yeah,
I love that you picked up on that. I mean, this is this is why we love Canada and everything. Absolutely. I'm going to use this myself in any future chats I do. The Elvis story, the Memphis period, and the Sun period, concluding with just signing in the first hit at RCA. That's the interesting part of the story. And that is the interesting part of the story. That's the part of the story that's inspiring. That's the part of the story that if you're a young girl or guy, that's useful. The stuff after it, whatever, that's the interesting bit. And that's always the hardest bit of the story to tell because there's always the least amount of film footage. And so people concentrate on the other stuff because there's all manners of hangers on and bits and bobs and TV appearances and whatnot. But you're right. That's where the gold is in the story.
And we've been to
and that's what we're trying to give you with this. This is their Sun Records period, This is their Sun Records period up to the release of Hound Dog when it's the biggest thing in the world, And that's, as you say, that's so beautifully said, Terry. That's it for me.
And we've got Elvis Presley in the film, haven't we?
Yeah, that's actually in the film is the earliest known ever footage. Most people have not spotted this yet. The earliest known footage of Elvis Presley in color with the trio on stage.
By the way, you guys, February the 10th, today's February the 10th, Led Zeppelin played Memphis for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
For them, that's a big deal.
Yeah, we went.
We went
to Sun Studios and filmed Scotty Moore.
Yeah, in fact, actually, I got to know an absolutely lovely gentleman called Philip Rowles, who was their promo person accompanying them on that trip. And guess what they did when they came to Memphis?
Yeah,
Led Zeppelin. What was the first place they wanted to go to?
Sun
Studios. Yeah, they were down there with him, and then the studio was shut that day, and Philip said he was absolutely mortified. And so, but he knew someone that worked in the Sun warehouse or the warehouse where the local distributor, and they were picking up all the old Sun 45s from there. That was their first thing they did when they got into town.
What was Robert Plant's word about? There was something. It was an after comment. He made a statement. Then he said there was something in the air. There was something going on. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but at the time, in the beginning, he knew there was something in the air. What did he mean by that?
He meant that when you've been struggling, Robert Plant comes from the Midlands, which is the heart of British culture. It's the home of Shakespeare. It's the home of Tolkien. But the London scene is very snobbish to people north of London.
Yes.
And so it's very difficult from people from other parts of England, like the West Midlands or other parts of north of there to break into the British London music scene. I mean, this is typical of a lot of countries. Not to mention that, you know, as Robert confides for the first time in the film, you know, he'd been thrown out of his parents' house by his parents for wanting to do music. They wanted him to be a chartered accountant. So he was homeless. And so he was in and out of all these different groups trying to make it stick against the wall, as he put it. He was a mod. He was like a soul singer. He was a Tom Jones kind of singer. He was then like a kind of like a West Coast psychedelic style singer. For Led Zeppelin, he was recording or doing things with Alexis Korner, who is like the British father of the blues, and all this. And so all these guys in their different ways were they filled their time with a lot of things. And so what he's talking about is when he's in that room with Jimmy Page in Pangbourne, and Jimmy starts playing the acoustic guitar and asking him to sing, "Babe, I'm going to leave you." He's saying, I could feel it. There's this energy in the room. There's this thing happening. And it's like, you've got to have been in the race to know when those moments happen. And the message to the kids, and this is what who the film's for, is you've got to get off your sofa, get out there, be doing things with real people face to face, interacting with as many as you can. Because if you keep working hard, when that moment comes, you will recognize it and you got to grab it. And that's what he's talking about. He could feel it like this electricity before a lightning storm, you know?
Allison, when you talked in the beginning, in your beginnings, the two of you, and starting this journey that you're on, look at it now. Who did you make it for? Who was your audience you had in mind? Did you have a someone that you knew said, that guy, that age, that woman, that's who we're making it for?
Yeah, well, I think we made it for our 13-year-old selves. It's sort of like a roadmap to how to pursue your dreams. If you have a passion, whatever that may be, to follow your goals and work at your craft and stick to it, and wherever obstacles are thrown your way, just plow on through, ignore what everybody else is saying and keep at it. And that's sort of what we did when we were making the film as well. You know, as we said in the beginning, a lot of people said we were absolutely mad doing it because they'd never agreed to it. Well, we just carried on anyway. And then there was other hurdles across the way, like there was not enough archive to tell the film and so on. But eventually we found things because we didn't give up. And I think that's just one of the life lessons.
The journey of us on the film mirrors the group. It was a similar journey, you know, like life mirrors art and vice versa. Yeah, and the other thing is, you know, is that we both are huge cinephiles, and we wanted to make a movie to really get people together into cinemas.
Back into cinemas.
Not just any cinema, IMAX.
Or absolutely, or anything with the biggest screen you can find. I mean, it sounds pretty damn good in a 5.1, you know, but
and go with your friends.
And go with your friends. And we wanted to have something you could share. And we've always loved musicals, you know, and musicals are the things when you grow up with this, you know, South Pacific or Rocky Horror. I kept on thinking about with this. Those are the things you can watch 3 or 4 times a year in a cinema. And it's get dressed up and enjoy yourself. And I know it's, you know, the Hollywood Bowl. We live in California now, in Santa Monica. You know, the Hollywood Bowl. Once a year, they'll have the Sound of Music. And the whole Hollywood Bowl will be people singing along to the Sound of Music. Well, it doesn't happen with feature films, dramas. And so this is a musical. So we wanted to make a film like that with full songs so that you could go in and have this experience over and over again.
That I applauded. I literally dropped my notes and applauded. You were playing whole songs. You were also playing Sonny Boy Williamson, 50 Feet High. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, man, the man is a titan. He like Robert Plant is like, you know, this man is my musical bloodstream. Well, let's hear him for 2 minutes, you know? I mean, like, don't give him 15 seconds like it's TV. Play Sonny Boy Williamson, and, you know, that's it. And so it's a musical. That each song is a part of the narrative, you know? They're all chosen, the songs, for a reason. Like, you know, when they're playing in Europe and everyone's is like kind of, who the hell are these guys? And they got their fingers in their ears. What are they playing? Communication Breakdown, you know?
That's true. And go ahead, Allison, go.
When they go to America to sign the record deal, we hear your time is going to come. So the song lyrics are driving the narrative forward.
Yeah.
One person we have to talk about is John Bonham, who's just an incredible presence and drummer. What did his voice give you? What did it add to the story?
Well, just the fact that it was amazing to have one of them who's in the moment. His interviews, his 3 interview tapes are used, and they essentially are reasonably close to the time. So he's actually there. And so what was amazing was, number one, was getting a sense for this guy. And you could tell, like all of them, he was so different from the other 3. They're all so different from one another. And that's one of the messages of the film is, you know, collaborating with people different from yourself is going to make something greater than the sum of the parts. So it was indicating, firstly, he was there to let us know, I'm another completely different guy from these guys too, with a different worldview. And then the second thing was that because his interviews, as I said, are close to the events, he had memories and things he's talking about that the others didn't mention in their interviews. So it was John that was coming in and saying, because sometimes that stuff can be forgotten when it went so quickly, because nobody would book the band in England, you know? And it's like, none of the others said that, because I think maybe that the way they charged through that first year, now all these years later, but John was there to say, you know, I've just lived this. And it's like, you know, we had to do this because, you know, so it was like this gift from him. Like he would come in and provide this additional information that no one else said, you know? And so I remember Jimmy saying really touchingly, he said, he's like one of the main characters in the story because he's in the moment. What is the legacy of the group? You know, when we make a film, you know, our hope is that it is legacy defining. That's what we aim to do, is to make a film that's legacy defining, certainly at least for the period of the story that we're covering. And so we have literally searched everywhere on planet Earth, bar the Mariana Trench, for every piece of archive relating to the group. So I don't think
is there a director's cut? Because you have so much footage? Is there a director's cut down the way? No,
you're watching the director's cut. We had complete artistic control and final cut on the film. The band amazingly just agreed to let us make the film entirely independently, which is unheard of, you know, for a group of their magnitude. Is that you know, normally any successful act ultimately are producing it and they're controlling what you're seeing. They let us make the movie.
And there's so little footage available of them that every single fragment that we could use is in the film.
It's so well put together by our brilliant editor, Dan Gitlin, that it feels like there's another whole truckload that could just burst onto the screen. But actually, every individual shoot that was made of them is in there. Now, sometimes we'll have found something and they're performing 2 songs on a film reel or something, and we're using one of them. But in terms of that, every individual piece of film is in this movie, you know, so this is where it all comes together. This is like, if it was like an exhibition, it's where all the pieces of Tutankhamun's tomb have been assembled in one museum, in one place for one time, except it all is moving and is dancing and is exciting. It's not objects in the glass. It's actually alive, and you can hear it and enjoy it.
Let's go full circle. Here, let's go full circle. This is the last question, and it's a 30-second pitch. It's better than a pitch. Speak to the audience watching, listening. What do you want them to know about this documentary in the next 34, 45 seconds?
Well, we'd love you to go and see it in IMAX, and if not IMAX, then the biggest screen possible, because we worked really hard on the sound.
Yeah, just go into the cinema, just have a musical journey. This is an uplifting tale about music and how you do it and how you do things, and it's like, and so just go in and have a trip with your friends. I mean, it's like, this is something to be shared. It's not for watching on your own in a dark room. This is like a shared experience at a time when the world needs it. We need to be having things that we can enjoy together, that have inspiring message, that you can do things together as people without other people interfering with you, and this is the message. So go and enjoy it together. And I've just seen audiences, when we come out of the theater, I've seen whole audiences standing in the lobby talking about the film. And the idea is it's making them think and feel. And that's the dream, is that it gets that conversation going and makes people think, oh my God, I could do this, or I could learn, So yeah, it's there, it's yours now. Go out and have fun with it,